You're watching St. Michael's Journal, the Journal of Exorcism. In this potpourri of paranormal, a bizarre anthology, we begin by way of an addendum to our previous presentation, Close Encounters of the Paranormal Kind. In this current episode, we would like to share with you several more recent developments regarding those topics mentioned in that previous work. We examine how that Mr. Steven Speilberg has not only produced great work in the science fiction genre, but he has been involved in several projects in the horror category as well. In that episode of St. Michael's Journal, we noted Close Encounters of the Third Kind and the movie Poltergeist, both works in which Speilberg played a significant role. But very recently we learned that he had a certain degree of involvement in another classic horror film as well. Writing for 24ssports.com, Dustin Huang resurrects a 2009 Los Angeles Times article that outlined how Speilberg came to suggest that Oren Peli reconsidered the ending of his haunting story of a demonic invasion of a suburban tract house and its occupants. Reportedly, Paranormal Activity, the film shot in just 7 days on a meager budget of $15,000, produced, written, directed, photographed, and edited by Oren Peli, an independent filmmaker, was making its rounds through the film festivals when it fell into Speilberg's hands. A mythology has grown around the original found footage movie that spawned several sequels, a video game, and digital comics. A legend that insists that Speilberg had taken a copy of the film home to watch and decide if he wanted his DreamWorks production company to get involved. Other legends insist that Speilberg is no stranger to spooky events. These events that in our previous episode we referred to as Close Encounters of the Paranormal Kind. And it would seem that in the case of Paranormal Activity, Speilberg endured such a close encounter. Supposedly, while the copy of Paranormal Activity was in his Pacific Palisades estate, the door to an empty bedroom closed by itself and locked Speilberg out, forcing him to call a locksmith. In both the Times article as well as Wang's recent piece, this event in 2008 so rattled Speilberg that he wanted nothing to do with the project, but did make suggestions on how Peli might improve upon the film. Peli reshot the ending in 4 days, and the rest is history. Fans of Paranormal Activity no doubt think that the original work could not be improved upon, but we have to wonder if it might have been even more spectacular had Speilberg taken the project on himself, further improving Peli's original work. A question more pressing is, why did he pass, only making a suggestion about the major rewrite of the final scene? If you are familiar with his work, you know Speilberg is gifted. He can spot a gem of a story and refine it into a blockbuster. So why would he pass on something that might have made him millions? What was it about that incident of the bedroom door closing and locking itself that frightened the man so bad that he passed up the opportunity to earn millions of dollars? It has been said that Speilberg alludes to prior life experiences as being the inspiration for his work. Could he have suffered through an experience sometime in the past, something eerily similar to the plot of Paranormal Activity? Or perhaps it was a bad experience from his days working on the Poltergeist project that led him to avoid being involved in Paranormal Activity. Perhaps it is nothing more than the publicity department generating rumors to pique moviegoer interest. But perhaps, just like the movie The Exorcist, Poltergeist is in fact plagued with an evil curse. The internet site Biography writes, the majority of the fuel for the alleged curse stems from the deaths of multiple cast members. In total, 4 cast members died during and soon after the filming of the series. 2 of these tragic deaths were highly unexpected and puzzling, leading many fans to speculate on the trilogy's eerie implications. Heather O'Rourke, who was only 6 years old when she played the part of Carol Ann Freeling, died just a few years after the first movie was released. Dominic Dunn, who played the original older sister, Dana Freeling, was murdered by her boyfriend in November of 1982, just months after the summer release of Poltergeist. Julian Beck, the evil preacher Cain, and Will Sampson, the Native American shaman, both died not long after completion of Poltergeist 2, The Other Side, of more natural causes. Beck from stomach cancer and Sampson from a heart-lung transplant, which at that time did have a very slim survival rate. The author of the biography piece, Micah White, writes, cast deaths were not the only agents of the curse proliferation, as other peculiar and creepy legends surround the film franchise. Jo Beth Williams, who played Mom Diane Freeling in the first 2 films, claimed that director Spielberg insisted on using actual human skeletons as props in an attempt to save money. At the time, they were cheaper than plastic skeletons. Williams' claim has never been verified, but it persists to this day in the lore surrounding the film's curse. Perhaps you remember the scene in which Williams falls into the swimming pool full of skeletons. As I recall, those skeletons looked very real to me. If the use of real skeletons wasn't bad enough, Sampson, who in real life was a native spiritual leader and who passed away due to circumstances mentioned previously, performed an authentic exorcism one night after shooting wrapped up. Other cast members have had close calls with death over the years. Some, such as Lou Perryman, who played the small role of Pugsley in the original film, were not so fortunate. Perryman was 67 years old when a recently released ex-convict killed him in his own home with an axe. So who knows, perhaps Spielberg felt he had pushed his luck a bit far enough with his previous work. So we have to ask, is it possible that a fear of what might happen should he take part in paranormal activity was this underlying fear and apprehension so great that he turned down a project that could have made him millions? Moving on to our next topic, in Close Encounters of the Paranormal Kind, we reported about the ex-New York City police officer who gave up his badge and gun to fight not human criminals, but criminals of the demonic kind. Chris Deflorio, a 19-year vet of NYPD, continues to make headlines. Alex Mitchell, writing for the New York Post in an article dated 13 July of this year, reports Deflorio expresses his concern that something sinister is going on. The ex-cop turned demonologist told reporters, "There are just too many coincidences of identical incidents from different towns across the country. The claims must be seen as credible until proven otherwise. It doesn't get more serious than this when children are the targets." James Liddell, the U.S. audience writer for the British publication The Star, reported on 8 June of this year, that while Deflorio was serving as a law enforcement officer in New York City, he was also doing Christian ministry work in Africa, where he first met a man he thought was demonically possessed. Little reports that Deflorio told the following hair-raising story. The man was slithering around the floor like a snake, making unusual noises. We locked eyes, and I saw what I perceived to be pure evil. It was an evil that even with all my years in law enforcement, I had never seen this sort of evil before. I saw a battle between God and the devil, good and evil. Deflorio then recalled another memorable case. This case in Connecticut involved an elderly woman and her 4-year-old granddaughter when they moved into their dream home. Little did they know the property was previously owned by a satanic witch, Deflorio said. The grandmother could hear walking and banging in the middle of the night, waking up to markings and bloody handprints all over the walls, along with animal skulls nailed around in a ceremonious circle. Deflorio discovered that the child had a relationship with the creature, which she could draw and even mimic the sounds it made. After using his cop skills to investigate the property, they went to the attic to perform a Catholic ritual. In the attic, they recorded some horrific activity, according to Deflorio. There was a smell coming up from the ground as I was reading, and the family recorded downstairs a growling, roaring sound around the entire house at the same time as the ritual. While fighting against this demon, who she called her friend, the little girl was apparently giving a play-by-play of what was happening. Believe it or not, what Deflorio claims to happen during an exorcism of a locale is not that unusual. This sort of paranormal phenomenon at times is routine to those of us experienced in demonic warfare. Another topic we covered in Close Encounters of the Paranormal Kind is the total reversal of the media and powers that be, who have now embraced those who they castigated not so very long ago. The media now seems anxious to flock to individuals who claim to have witnessed unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, that phenomena that most of us think of as UFOs. Those who once were social outcasts are now the favorite cause célèbre, as the media flock to anyone willing to be interviewed as they tell their out-of-this-world story. Almost on a daily basis, we see yet another report of a whistleblower stepping forward to say he or she has knowledge of information that the authorities, diverse government agencies, who have concluded with each other to cover up the information that the public demands to be released. Ironically, when most of these so-called whistleblowers are vetted, we find that they have no first-hand or even second-hand information, but rather they only contribute hearsay that cannot be confirmed. Mark Gollum published a piece on July 30 at the CBC news site titled, "So what about that UFO testimony? How seriously is Congress taking it, and should we?" Gollum wrote, when renowned skeptic Michael Shermer watched the recent U.S. Congressional House Committee hearing, which included shocking testimony about UFOs, alien spacecraft, and alien remains, he was perhaps not surprisingly unimpressed. Indeed, what was more amazing to Shermer, publisher of Skeptic magazine, was the fact that such a hearing was even taking place. It's astounding it's come this far without any real evidence, without anybody in the scientific community making an appearance, said Shermer. We are still seeing not a shred of physical evidence. Likewise, the Kansas City Star ran the headline on 26 July, which read, "Have you seen alien bodies? Missouri lawmaker wasn't convinced after hearing on UAPs. The KC Star reports, in a congressional hearing about the existence of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, the most recent term for what have long been called UFOs, Republican Eric Burleson passed on a question for a witness from a Missouri constituent. "Have you seen alien bodies?" asked Burleson, a freshman Missouri representative. The witness, David Grush, was a former intelligence officer in the U.S. Air Force who worked in intelligence and worked with the Department of Defense office in charge of investigating UAPs, called the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. He has claimed that the government is covering up their knowledge about non-human aircraft and pilot bodies. "That is something I have not witnessed myself," Grush responded. He also said he couldn't reveal any non-human aircraft he's personally witnessed in a non-classified setting. "I'm pretty skeptical about this," Burleson said. "As I said before, I think the idea that an alien race would travel hundreds of light years or thousands or whatever it takes to get here and is capable of traveling at that speed, then when they get here, they're not capable of surviving our atmosphere and surviving this planet. It just doesn't make any sense." The honorable gentleman from Missouri has a point. How could such an advanced alien race arrive here only to crash land? Newsweek opted to roll out a scientist for his observation. Leading scientists have reacted with skepticism to claims espoused in a special hearing that alien life not only exists but has traveled to Earth and specimens are held by the U.S. government. In a session of the House Oversight Committee on Wednesday, part of an investigation of claims regarding UFOs, witnesses testified that the government had been aware of non-human activity since the 1930s. "I watched a few clips and saw some people who seemed to believe stuff saying extraordinary things without presenting extraordinary evidence," reacted physicist and broadcaster Brian Cox on Twitter. If you care to peruse the diverse publications distributed by the various groups and agencies who want nothing more than to find the truth about UFOs and UAPs, true believers, if you will find that a surprisingly large number of people in those groups are as equally skeptical of the testimony given at these congressional hearings. We are even seeing on TikTok and other media popular with younger people an emerging trend in which the creators of the video presentations rhetorically ask, "Aren't there more important issues for Congress to investigate, like the economy, government corruption, etc., etc., etc.?" Others are wondering if these hearings are nothing more than a distraction, a shell game, so to speak, in which their intention is to get us to watch what they want us to watch and not what they don't want us to see. However, if the report by Art Levine published by the Washington Spectator is in fact credible, the real reason for these so-called whistleblowers to step forward and claim knowledge of secret government activities may be nothing more than the hopes of hucksters seeking to defraud the taxpayer of even more money. Levine's work, titled "Spaceship of Fools," appears to connect the proverbial dots between purveyors of paranormal snake oil and the fleecing of the Treasury. Levine writes, "Behind every conspiracy theory lies a golden opportunity for companies and hucksters to make money. UFOs are no exception. That's becoming clear once again as a former intelligence agency official and self-identified whistleblower, David Grush, came forward last month with startling and increasingly bizarre new claims. Buoyed by largely uncritical media hype, he's asserted that the government has been hiding a secret crash retrieval program, The Pope tipped off the United States to a UFO retrieval by Mussolini, which is a long discredited hoax. Alien corpses have been recovered by U.S. officials, and humans have been killed by aliens. Grush's UFO craft recovery tale spurred calls for yet another congressional hearing on UFOs, which the next one scheduled before a House Oversight Committee on July 26. Expect documentary films, a book deal, and lucrative offers on the lecture circuit to follow. We've been here before. Two former Defense Department officials, Lou Elizondo and Christopher Mellon, came forward a few years ago to expose what they deemed a government cover-up of UFOs. Now the Securities and Exchange Commission is apparently poised to initiate a fraud investigation of the company they helped launch in 2017, to the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, following its multi-million-dollar pleas for investment. The potential for investigation is also driven by concerns raised in an extensive whistleblower complaint by a skeptic, as well as the substance of a previous SEC lawsuit against the company that was aborted in 2019. Documents relating to this lawsuit have been obtained by the Washington Spectator. TTSA made a host of false scientific claims following its public launch with a news conference in October 2017 while seeking $50 million in investment. Among them, executives promised to build a Star Trek-style spaceship to travel instantly through the cosmos. This project was based in part, they claimed, in solicitations to investors on non-existent warp drive technology reverse engineered from likely alien materials recovered from crashed UFOs. The company's CEO, Blink-182 guitarist Tom DeLonge, even declared, "I have alien artifacts." Prominent among the proponents of such far-fetched claims were those former influential Department of Defense officials, Alonzo and Mellon, both of whom had joined DeLonge's company. These same individuals laid the groundwork for the UFO media firestorm that began at the end of 2017. New defense legislation that was passed in December 2021 and Senate hearings held this past April. These developments in turn effectively nurtured the bonanza of publicity and congressional interests that have greeted David Grush's reported revelations. End of quote. Could these skeptics be correct in their supposition that all the out-of-this-world hype and bluster, insinuations that aliens who have traveled millions of light years across space have crashed here and their fantastic spaceships routinely harass our most advanced military aircraft? Could it be that all this is nothing more than an elaborate setup, a means to get Congress to appropriate millions, if not billions, of dollars on a fool's mission? On that note, I leave you with the following question. What do you think? Are the hearings productive, revealing the truth of the UFO phenomenon? Or are they simply an engineered distraction designed to take our attention away from the real truth, real issues, while hucksters defraud the American people out of even more? I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for joining us today and to ask that if you enjoyed this presentation, to please click on the like and subscribe buttons. The cases of paranormal related events described in this episode are intended to raise the audience's awareness of religious and spiritually related topics. St. Michael's Journal is a part of the St. Michael's Media Publishing Group, a publishing ministry of the Archdiocese of St. Michael's, a liturgical and sacramental church. Finally, if you feel called to become a warrior in the battle against evil, follow this link or see the links in the video description for more information. This video may cite or contain material which is copyrighted by other individuals or secular entities. We do not claim possession of the rights to that material, but redistribute it or provide links to such under fair use doctrines for not-for-profit religious educational purposes. Finally, until we meet again, may the blessing of God be with you, the peace of Christ be upon you, and the power of the Holy Spirit live in you now and always. Amen.